Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up, I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians or choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now, if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers and these battle scars on my church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers, these battle scars on my church.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Well, hello everyone. How are you doing? And it looks like I deleted all those overlays. Well, that's okay because I don't need to be. I usually have my little pink flame thing here, but anyway, we don't need all of that. I'll fix that for the next show. But as usual, now I'm all distracted because I don't have my overlays. Plus, I'm doing a show really early, and because of that, you want to know what? I'm not going to do all the intros. I've got plenty of time to do that on other shows. We're going to get pretty much right to the topic with one exception. So, over the past few days, I have outlined some real dirtiness on the part, big surprise, of the LNC. And over the past few days, I've learned about more. Just when you think this couldn't get any shadier, I'm not doing any more shows on it. I think I've proven my point. Some of these things may come up during the Judicial Committee hearing. Let me just word it this way. To the 11 who voted yes, I've learned some shit about you guys over the past couple days. I'm not going to say what it is. If I were you, I might be concerned about what comes out at this JC hearing. Let you worry about what I know. I know quite a bit. You guys, the most corrupt LNC ever, particularly several of you. I would worry. Let me just leave it at that. That you let me fuck with your heads the way you fucked with mine. Now, on a cheerier note, let's get to, well, It isn't really cheerier, is it? It's ballot access news and the way we continually get screwed by the Republicans and the Democrats. Speaking of dirty, shame to learn that the LP is as dirty as they are right now. We just have no power to really hurt anybody other than, like, maybe our secretary. Oh, don't get my little anarchy symbol out. What a better time for it, right? When we're talking about the corruption of politics. But good morning, y'all. I would love to have your participation. As always, this is a participatory show. Super chats, of course, I need to do my shameless grifting, are always welcome. But let's get right to it. This came in, I think, last week from Ballot Access News. Good morning, good thinkful duck speaker. And good morning, Chino YT. Most of this is occupied with how we're getting screwed over in New York, okay? And it's quite long. And I'm probably just going to have to read it and talk about it. I'll skip what I can because I don't like doing long blocks of reading. But as we know, we've gotten screwed over in New York a lot. I haven't read this ahead of time because I like giving you guys my contemporaneous reaction. So I don't even know if what this is going on in New York has to do with the LP or not. I'm interested in ballot access issues, whether they affect the LP or not, because eventually everything does affect us, doesn't it? All right. On August 30th, the mayor of Buffalo, New York, filed a lawsuit in state court against the May petition deadline for independent candidates. On the same day, some voters who wanted to vote for him filed a lawsuit in federal court, also against the May petition deadline. Okay, so now what we know this is about. Apparently, there's a deadline in May. Sounds extremely early to me for a petition deadline. So the mayor had lost the Okay, so this has to do not with the LP so far. The mayor lost the Democratic primary for re-election in June 2021. So he then circulated a petition to get on the ballot as an independent candidate using the slogan Buffalo Party. But his petition was rejected because the petition deadline for independence had been in May. All right, so it looks like there's a petition deadline for independence that occurs before the primary, meaning people who lose in the primary cannot turn around and subsequently run as independents. This seems to me somewhat of a sore loser law, perhaps. Don't know. We'll see. Next paragraph, I should have just looked. New York has no sore loser law. All right, so it isn't that, but it seems to effectively be that. And there have been many politicians in New York who lost a major party primary, but then ran in the general election anyway as the nominee of a minor party or as an independent. The mayor's petition had enough signatures, but it was rejected because it was filed too late. The basis for his lawsuit is that almost universally, courts have held that independent candidate petition deadlines can't be earlier than primary, but New York's deadline is 28 days before the primary. And then it goes on to talk about what some other states have said, such as Ohio, said the deadlines should be upheld because it blocks sore losers. But the U.S. Supreme Court said, and this is going on an earlier case, that even though John Anderson was a sore loser, states cannot stop sore losers by making the independent deadline early. If states want to do that, they can do that. If they want to stop sore losers, they can do that directly. But they can't do it indirectly by tinkering with petition deadlines. An early petition deadline injures independent candidates who are not sore losers. And I think that's a great point. And it says, based on this precedent, the mayor of Buffalo should have won his case. And he did win them, both of them, in the first round. Federal and state of court. But the state appellate division reversed the lower state court and upheld the constitutionality of the May deadline. And during the argument, one of the justices argued again that the petition deadline was that the mayor should lose his case because he was a sore loser. All right. Continuing. So it says, when the decision came out a few hours later, on September 16th, it said that the May deadline is constitutional because the state must send out overseas absentee ballots 45 days before the general election, and therefore the May petition deadline is needed so the ballot can be finalized. So now they're using the excuse not that he's a sore loser, but that these absentee ballots need to be sent out early. But then how do they know who gets put on the absentee ballot for the primaries? Again, I'm just asking these questions that are coming into my head without reading ahead. No one can believe such a statement. The deadline for mailing out overseas absentee ballots this year is September 17th, a day before the decision. And it's absurd to argue, therefore, that independent petition deadline must be in May. The decision also said that the state has an interest in ensuring the integrity and reliability of the electoral process and promoting political stability. Who gets to decide that? The courts? These are just code words for blocking sore losers. And then it details that New York has a long tradition of accepting sore losers. And Richard Winger puts his own commentary. In the 35 years I have been watching election law bills in New York, I don't recall seeing a single bill ever introduced that proposed to outlaw sore losers. And he gives a list of notable sore losers. And one here really got my attention. Mario Cuomo lost the Democratic primary for mayor of New York in 1977, but then he got on the general election ballot as the Liberal Party nominee and polled 45% in the general election. Also, Andrew Cuomo lost the Democratic primary for governor in 2002, but he appeared on the November ballot anyway as the nominee of the Liberal Party. Next page. Okay, and political scientists say sore loser laws are harmful. Now, in the decision, it says, the appellate decision says, Mayor Brown is far from the archetypical independent candidate whose interests Anderson and its progeny seek to protect. So what? You can't make these exceptions because one candidate happens to be different. And it says, other errors in the appellate division decision. The opinion says that most decisions striking down early deadlines have done so in the context of their impact on federal elections, but cited no authority. The statement is false. Among the 53 court decisions that have struck down or enjoined early petition deadlines, 31 of them involve state or local office. Okay, continuing. The appellate division cited precedents that supposedly supported early deadlines, but most of the cited cases involved independent petition deadlines that were simultaneous with the primary. Mayor Brown will not appeal his state court case. It is unknown if his supporters will appeal the federal case. Oh, well. Interesting. We'll find out more about this as it goes on. But it's just funny the way the judges just make up shit as they go along. Okay, next item on the docket. California ballot access bill passes. This is good news. On September 7th, the Bill AB 446 passed. It lowers the petition to recognize a new party from 10% of the last gubernatorial vote to 3%. It also eases the paperwork for a group that wants to qualify by the alternate registration group. The bill won't have much impact because virtually no group ever uses the petition method because the alternate registration method is so much easier. But it still clears another pathway. People's Party is probably going to take advantage of this. And I need to catch up to what's going on with my commie friends in the People's Party. And by the way, tomorrow's history thing, I think, is going to be Daniel Lutz's request on the Dallas Accord issues. I was going to do it tonight, but I figured it's a history thing. That's perfect for a history show, which is generally Friday nights. But I need to double check that because am I on Swamp Creatures? I'm on somebody's show tomorrow. I'll let you know tonight. And I need to work it around that appearance. New election law bill in U.S. Senate. Let's see here. It's called the Freedom to Vote Bill. That already scares me. When the titles are like all positive like that, it's usually quite terrible. But let's see. It might be good. Okay, all of the sponsors are Democrats, except one is an independent. The bill restricts partisan gerrymandering. Okay. Requires what? No, I don't like that first part. I like. The second part I don't like. Requires all states to automatically register every adult citizen whose existence is known by other state government records. Requires that states permit early voting, permits ex-felons to vote, I like that, and makes Election Day a holiday. It also makes many changes in campaign finance laws, including abolishing primary season matching funds for presidential candidates, one of the rare federal programs that helps minor parties. Well, I'm not in favor of the federal charity as it is anyway, but it's funny that they want to get rid of the charity, but only where it helps minor parties. The bill is supported by all 50 members of the Democratic caucus, but it's unlikely to pass unless the filibuster rules are changed. If the bill's separate parts were broken up into separate bills, it seems plausible that some would get enough Republican support to overcome a filibuster. For example, a standalone bill to restrict partisan gerrymandering might get the support of 60 senators. Alrighty. It does not try to revamp the membership of the Federal Election Commission. Which was attempted before in a bad way. Okay. Georgia U.S. House ballot access. On September 3rd, U.S. District Judge Lee Martin May, we've discussed this before, set interim rules, where she just pulled them out of her butt, if you remember, for Georgia petition for minor parties and independent candidates for district and county office. All of those petitions will be 1% of the number of registered voters. Her action was needed because earlier she had struck down the 5% petition for those offices. A large filing fee is also required. This gives Georgia one of the nation's most severe petition laws in the nation for U.S. House. Nevertheless, on September 17th, the Secretary of State filed a notice of appeal. Apparently, he wants to fight to restore the 5% petition. It's already one of the nation's worst with 1%, which is so severe, no one has used it for U.S. House since 1964. Judge May extended the 1% interim relief to candidates for the legislature and partisan county office, even though the original complaint only talked about U.S. House. Campaign finance restrictions overturned in Alaska and in New York. Alaska, the Supreme Court unanimously struck down a state law limiting payment to initiative circulators to $1 per signature. That's good because nobody's going to go up to effing Alaska for $1 a signature. New York struck down a state law that lets qualified parties give more money to their nominees than unqualified parties are permitted to give. Next, Democrats lose ballot order case in West Virginia. On September 1st, the Fourth Circuit issued an opinion in Nelson versus Warner. The issue was a West Virginia law that says the nominees of the party that won the last presidential election in that state appear on the top line of the general election ballot. This is the fifth ballot order case that the Democratic Party has lost in the last year. The others were in Georgia, Florida, Texas, and Minnesota. There's one pending in Arizona. The Democratic Party has weakened itself in all of these cases by arguing that relief should only be given to one of the two major parties and that it is constitutional to place minor party and independent candidates in the lowest rungs of the ballot. Isn't that special? It says the fact that the Democratic Party has recently lost so many of these cases is surprising because similar cases were won in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Eighth Circuit upholds Minnesota petition wording. On September 3rd, the Eighth Circuit upheld the Minnesota law that says independent candidate petitions must say, "I solemnly swear or affirm that I do not intend to vote at the primary election for the office for which this nominating petition is made." That makes it difficult to get people to sign. Wow. The decision is 5 pages, is unsigned, and will not be published. It said nothing about the state interest in the law. It merely says that the Libertarian Party's attorney at oral argument had conceded that the law is not vague. This is true, but he certainly did not concede that the law is constitutional. The evidence showed that it makes it more difficult to petition and serves no state interest. Oh boy. Now some ballot access lawsuits. Even though the voters did not recall Governor Gavin Newsom, opponents of the rules for recall are pressing ahead with a federal lawsuit that alleges the system violates the U.S. Constitution. Okay. Hawaii. Let's see here. There was a lawsuit filed in 2020 by U.S. citizens who formerly lived in Hawaii and now live in Guam or the U.S. Virgin Islands and want to vote absentee in Hawaii elections. If they move to a foreign country, they could do that. But U.S. law does not allow them to do that because they live in U.S. territories. Wow. And it seems like the judge will ultimately rule in favor of the voters. Good for them. North Carolina, a 3-panel judge of a state superior court in Raleigh, struck down the state's photo voter ID law by a vote of 2-1. Holmes versus Moore. This is that case. It talks about there's only a limited list of acceptable types of voter ID which has the effect of injuring African Americans. I'm not sure what this list is, so I can't really have an opinion here. In Ohio, 2 Amakai Briefs were filed in the U.S. Supreme Court in support of the Libertarian Party's cert petition. I think I have these briefs. I'm going to be going over this maybe later because I do have some lawsuit news. The issue is the law that says a minor party member can never be a member of the Elections Commission. The Amakai were filed by the Cato Institute and a joint one filed by the Green, Constitution, and National Libertarian parties and the Coalition for Free and Open Elections. Also in Ohio, the Sixth Circuit refused to rehear Thompson versus DeWine, and the issue is whether ballot access relief should have been granted during 2020 for initiatives due to COVID. Texas, 2 Democratic senators filed a federal lawsuit arguing that the special section of the legislature cannot redistrict due to a provision in the Texas Constitution. In Virginia, the Virginia Republican Party filed a lawsuit to remove Democratic gubernatorial candidate Terry McAuliffe from the November 2021 Also should be Ballot. There's a lot of typos in this issue, just by the way, Richard. Hit me up. I can proofread for you if you'd like. I don't know if you have a volunteer to do that. I know you're so busy. On the grounds that he hadn't signed a declaration of candidacy in the June 2021 Democratic primary. Although the state and Mcauliffe filed responses the next day, there's still no hearing date, and of course by now the ballots are being printed. There's a chart in here in case you are interested. Which minor party ran the most state house candidates? And it gives it by year and state. So in Colorado, the most was in 2000 by the Libertarian Party. 57 candidates out of possible 65. Let's see. A lot of these were Libertarian. So in Florida, Georgia, Hawaii, of course, different years, Idaho, Kansas, Kentucky, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, New Mexico, North Carolina, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, South Dakota, Texas, Utah, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Chart covers from 1945 for the present. That is fantastic that the Libertarian Party featured so prominently on this. And last thing, actually two things. 2022 petitioning. Green Party, New Mexico Green Party is trying to regain party status. The Common Sense Party of California needs 73,000 registrants to be a qualified party. They're attempting that. The Alabama Libertarian Party has 25,000 signatures presently. It needs, there's a lot of typos here as well. And it says it needs 51,588 by May 24th, 2020. This was printed in 2021. I think you mean 2022. And also it says this about the North Dakota Libertarian Party. It says it needs 7,000 signatures by April 11th, 2020. I think you meant 2022, Richard. This is why I said there's a lot of typos in this issue. I'm going to write, the other one was minor. You miss a few words. People still know what you're saying. I'm going to write Richard about these two dates, though, because that makes things really confusing. And the last bit of news, and I really highly encourage you to pay Richard Ringer the $18 a year to subscribe to this. He does this out of a labor of love. It's well worth the money to support his work. Okay, last thing. Andrew Yang says he will start a new political party. On September 9th, news sources reported that Andrew Yang will start a new political party. Yang says people will need to read his book, nice way to get your book sales up, Forward, Notes on the Future of Our Democracy, to learn more. It comes out on October 5th. I might read it to report to you guys. The forward is by Mark Cuban of Texas. It's possible that Yang is really joining the SAM party, which already exists and is headed by former Republican Congressman David Jolly. I might pre-order that book so I can let you guys know what I think, since this is something I like to report on. All right, I do hope that these monthly updates are found useful. It isn't one of my most popular shows, but it is something I'm going to continue doing because I think for those of you who want to know, it's important. And also, people stumble upon this that aren't libertarians, that don't know the abysmal just crap that the courts do to restrict your opportunities to vote for candidates that you want, and you wonder why the Democrats and Republicans have such a stronghold on this country. It's because they have a stronghold on the courts, and they are protecting their duopoly power. It is gross, it is un-American, and it's anti-freedom. Okay, maybe later today I'll do an advance announcement. Maybe I'll cover, I believe it was the Amakai Brief in Ohio, filed jointly by the Libertarians, the Coalition for Free and Open Elections, so on and so forth, which I read earlier. That one, though, I will examine ahead of time because I'm not going to read a whole brief to you guys out loud, and I'll highlight important points if I decide to cover that today. I am going to cover it at some point, but it seems like today might be a good day. All right, that is it. Thank you to you hardy souls that showed up to learn more about what's going on in ballot access for October, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.
given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business.